हाय एवरीवन। आज थोड़े टाइम बाद हाँ आज हम स्टार्ट करेंगे हमारी नई स्टोरी दैट इज़ 1984 मतलब स्टोरी ने बुक ही है सॉरी। इस बुक की जो समरी है उससे हम स्टार्ट करते हैं। चैप्टर 1 यानी कि पार्ट 1। द स्टोरी इज सेट इन लंदन, वन ऑफ द प्रोविंसेस ऑफ ओशिनिया which is under a totalitarian rule and everything is under the surveillance of the party. Oceania is constantly at war with either Eurasia or Estonia, the other two superpowers of the world. Huge posters of a black mustachioed face are stuck everywhere with the caption, "Big Brother is watching you." Each house has a telescreen installed that transmits the audio and video feed to the thought police. The patrol police keeps an eye on the streets and even on the citizens' house. The slogan of the party is "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." The hold of the government on its citizens is clear through the depiction of empty streets and dilapidated houses. There are four ministers: ministers of truth, which concerns itself with news; ministers of peace, which concerns itself with war; minister of love, which maintains law and order; and ministers of plenty, which is responsible for economic affairs. Their names in newspeak. The official language of Oceania are Minitro, Minipex, Minulove, and Mini-Plenty, respectively. Out of these, Minulove is the most frightening ministry. 30-year-old Winston Smith, who works in the records department of Ministry of Truth, comes home early one day. He sits on his desk, which is outside the range of the telescreen, and takes out a blank book, pen holder, and a bottle of ink. Keeping these things is not allowed, and if caught, one can be punished by death or being forced into a labor camp for a long time. Winston wants to pen down his thoughts about what's happening around him. He writes the date April 4th, 1984, although he is not sure if it is the correct date. He writes that he went to watch the movies the previous night, which were all war films. It showed a boat filled with refugees bombed by helicopters. Even a boat filled with children and a woman was blown apart. The audience laughed at these scenes. There was one woman who protested against it, but no one took her seriously. Winston tries to recall the incident which made him start writing the diary that day. It happened at work during the 2 minutes. Hate, which features the face of Emmanuel Goldstein, the enemy of people, on the telescreen, speaking against the doctrines of the party, and the people hurl abuses at him. Winston looks at O'Brien, a member of the inner party who holds an important position, and when their eyes meet briefly, Winston sees an understanding in O'Brien's eyes that he was with Winston and people like him who hated the party. Big Brother and the totalitarian rule is general. It is said that Emmanuel Goldstein was a defiler of the party and has tried to commit various crimes against its rules. He was captured, but he somehow escaped and went underground, from where he hatches his conspiracies against the party. He has also created his own army called the Brotherhood. Over the years, several of his supporters have been caught and incarcerated by the thought police. It is also rumored that he has written a book against the party and circulated it. Winston snaps out of his reverie and focuses on the page. He finds that he has unknowingly written "Down with Big Brother" repeatedly on the page. He is horrified because this is considered a thought crime, and if detected by the thought police, one can get arrested. Someone knocks on the door of his house, and he is sure it is the thought police who has came to arrest him. Now we were going to start the chapter 2. Winston is relieved to see that it was his neighbor, Miss Parsons, at the door. She wanted his help in fixing the kitchen sink since her husband, Winston, colleague was not at home, Winston notices that her children, a 9-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl, already seem brainwashed into believing that the party and Big Brother are their savior. There have been reports of small children reporting their parents to the thought police and getting them arrested. Winston returns to his apartment and continues writing in his diary. He again thinks about O'Brien, his reason for writing, and wonders who it is he is writing to. He finally decides that it doesn't matter if he is heard or not, but it is important for him to remain sane, so he writes to the past or the future where people are free and not alone. So now we will start the chapter 3, that is Winston dreams about his father, mother, and baby sister who are now dead. He vaguely remembers how they died, but has a feeling that they sacrificed themselves for his life. He is woken up by a visual from the telly screen at 7:50, and physical exercise starts exactly 3 minutes later. And a female instructor on the telly screen, Winston does the workout with an expression deemed appropriate, in spite of a coughing fit and a various ulcer above his right ankle. Winston goes down the memory lane while doing the workout and thinks about how the truth and facts have been altered by the party, and there is no evidence or documents related to it. Even the things that people know have happened or haven't happened can be changed by the party, and after a few years it becomes the truth, and if anyone tries to question it, he or she disappears. Now, chapter number 4, that is Winston begins his day at work. That includes altering facts and news that go against the testaments and predictions of the Big Brother. From statistics as small as the production of boots to changing records as big as eliminating the existence of a man from the newspapers, books, etc. All was part of Winston's job. One particular task that day includes changing a speech given by Big Brother a few months ago in Times, where Big Brother had praised Comrade Weathers of an organization called the FFCC. The organization was suddenly dissolved 3 months later, and now it is required to eliminate the existence of FFCC and Weathers by changing the speech. So, Winston creates a new character, Comrade Ogilvy, and rewrites the article in such a way that it seems that Big Brother is praising Comrade Ogilvy. Now, chapter number 5 is Winston meets his friend Syme, who works in the research department. In the canteen at lunch, Syme and his team are working on the 11th edition of the Newspeak dictionary and is making the vocabulary even smaller. This is being done so that there would be fewer words for people to express themselves. Syme predicts that by 2050 there will only be a handful of words that will be used by people to talk to each other and old speak. The language in which they are speaking and was spoken by people in earlier times will become obsolete. They are joined by comrade persons who boast how his children are already strictly following the teachings of the party and Big Brother and have started reporting and spying on people that seem even a little bit suspicious of going against Big Brother. Winston looks around the canteen and notices how people have become ignorant and unquestioningly accept all the facts and news provided by the party. Even though their houses are falling apart, the tubes are crowded, and there is a dearth of essential commodities, the people are made to believe that they are happy and satisfied. Winston notices a young woman sitting at the next table looking at him through the corner of her eyes. He remembers her sitting behind him during the 2 minutes. Hate and panics, thinking that she might be with the thought police, but later brushes it off as coincidence. Now, chapter number 6. The party forbids people to have sexual intercourse. If it is with a prostitute, you could face 5 years in forced labor camps. But the party doesn't mind if you do it secretly, but it is strictly unforgivable if it happens between party members. The party doesn't want men and women to engage in sexual activity, as it might result in forming loyalties that the party can't control. To make people refrain from engaging in sexual activity, the party tries to kill this instinct from childhood through songs, slogans, parades, and Junior Anti-Sex League, which advocates celibacy for both sexes. The party recognizes the purpose of marriage only to produce children. If the party finds out that two people are physically attracted to each other, their marriage is not approved. The party even advocates pregnancy through artificial insemination, called artsem in Newspeak. Winston remembered how his wife was so influenced by this ideology that she would stiffen even if he tried to hug her. She called lovemaking as an act to produce babies and the duty to the party. Ultimately, they separated. Winston writes in his diary about a sexual encounter he had with a prostitute 3 years ago. He found out that the prostitute was an old woman of at least 50, but he does it anyway and feels guilty after that. He assumes writing about it would make him feel better, but it doesn't. He has an unbearable urge to vent out his frustration, but he doesn't. Winston writes in his diary, this is the chapter 7, that he believes that only the proles, the common people, which form the majority of the population, can bring the downfall of the party and Big Brother. But to do that, they must be conscious of their strength and what is happening around them. To avoid this, the party keeps them engaged in petty areas of life like fighting for space in the tube or struggling to make ends meet, etc. Again and again, the truth is rewritten and repeated enough times to make the masses believe it. The party is so sure that the proles are harmless and that there are no telescreens in some places where the proles live and there is little interference by the civil forces. Winston recalls how once he had the document of the proof of falsification and how he had felt powerful while holding it in his hand. That single piece of paper could have brought the party down, but he got scared that the telescreen might pick it up and he destroyed the document. Winston understands how the lies are altered to be perceived as truth, but he fails to understand why the party is doing it. What is the motive behind it? With a feeling that he is writing all this for O'Brien, he continues to pen down his thoughts. Now, chapter number 8. There is no concept of individuals called own life in Newspeak. In Oceania, and the citizens are expected to take part in communal recreation activities. If they are not working, sleeping, or eating, if someone even takes a stroll by themselves in their spare time, it is frowned upon. Winston takes a risk by not attending activities of the community center, where party members are expected to be after work, and goes walking to the slums where the proles live. He talks in the deplorable state that they live in, and even when they are hit by a rocket bomb, which results in death and destruction of houses. They carry on their daily activities as if nothing has happened. Winston notices an old man of about 80 enter a pub where there wasn't any telescreen. He decides to question the man about how things were before the revolution and before the party and Big Brother took over, as the old man would have been in his youth before the revolution. Winston is disappointed when the old man fails to reveal anything useful. Winston then goes back to the street and enters the shop from where he bought his diary. The shop owner, Mr. Charrington, welcomes him and shows him around the shop. Winston buys a beautiful coral covered in glass. He looks at other objects that appeal to him because they belong to a different age. When he goes back outside in the streets, he is horrified to see that some women he saw during the 2-minute hate and in the canteen. She hurries away as soon as she sees him, and Winston is now sure that she is following him and is a member of the thought police who is on to him. He reaches his apartment and thinks about what would happen to him if he gets arrested. Chapter 1, Part 2. Till now we are reading just part 2, the summary of just part 2. The summary of just part 1. So now we will starting the summary of part 2, that chapter number 1. 4 days later, Winston stiffens when he finds the woman walking towards him in the corridor when he leaves his cubicle to go to the laboratory. Her hands is in a sling, and when they are few feet away, she trips and falls down. Winston helps her up, and they exchange a few words of formality, but it seems to Winston that she is a bit agitated. Winston notices that she has surreptitiously slipped a piece of paper in his hand without getting noticed by the telescreen. He carefully opens the piece of paper when he goes back to his cubicle and finds "I-U" written on it. He tries not to show surprise on his face and quickly destroys the piece of paper. For the next few days, he keeps his emotions in check while fantasizing about her and tries to find a way to talk to her. They successfully communicate with each other one day and decide to meet at Victory Square near the monument of Big Brother. Winston arrives there to find that the woman is already at the location. Just then, trucks filled with prisoners pass them, and the crowd rushes to catch a glimpse of the prisoner. In the crowd, the woman gives Winston instruction to meet her at a particular place on Sunday. They stand in the crowd holding each other's hands without people noticing. Now, chapter number 2. Winston and the woman reach their destination separately, which is a small clearing in the bushes surrounded by tall saplings, which is enough to hide them from prying eyes. There are no telescreens or hidden mics. The woman tells him that her name is Julia and she hates the party. She tells him that she pretends to do everything the party accepts of her citizens. On being asked by Winston why she is attracted to him, she replies that she saw something in his facial expression and recognized that he is one of those people who were against the party. The way she talks about everything gives Winston hope that other party members could be corrupted and can bring the downfall of the party. They make love, and Winston considers this as the first blow against the party. Now, the chapter number 3 is after their first meeting, Winston and Julia continue to meet secretly. During one of their meetings, Julia reveals to Winston that the party wants people to refrain from having sex because it uses up their energy and you feel happy after it. You do not care about anything else like getting excited about Big Brother or the 3-year plans or the 2-minute set, and the party wants people to remain energized all the time to cheer for these activities. Julia opposes Winston's pessimistic nature that sooner or later they are going to die. She believes that they can lead a happy life by breaking the rules once in a while. Now, the chapter number 4. Winston starts feeling more strongly for Julia, and those feelings are more than just lust. He starts imagining them to be married and who live, shop, and talk like a married couple. They meet again in the small room above Mr. Charrington's shop that Winston rents out for the evening. Julia brings with her real coffee and sugar that the inner party members have access to. She also brings bread and jam, which are available in the black market. They eat, and Julia puts on a bit of makeup for Winston and promises to bring ladylike clothes to wear in front of him. They make love, and afterward Julia makes coffee and they stay in bed till the time comes to return back to their respective homes. Now, the chapter number 5. Winston's colleague sign vanishes without a trace. His absence is questioned by a few people, but there is no mention of him from the next day, as if he has ceased to exist. The preparation for the Hate Week is in full swing. People are working overtime and new posters are being pasted across the city. New songs are composed and new slogans are made. The protests and rallies taken out by the proles have intensified as the number of rocket bombs fired by the enemy kill more people daily. Some rowdy proles even loot shops as rumors about peace firing rockets through wireless waves are spread. Winston and Julia are in the same room above Mr. Charrington's shop. Julia believes that there is no war and the city of Oceania itself is dropping rockets on its citizens to keep them scared. When Winston talks about the past and how the truth is altered, Julia appears confused and uninterested. She says that she doesn't concern herself with this as everything is a lie and believe in living and enjoying life as much as she can. Winston understands that the party has successfully made people incapable of understanding its objectives. The people will accept and swallow anything the party says without understanding what is expected of them. Now, chapter number 6. O'Brien meets Winston in the corridor of their office and, on the pretext of giving him the 10th edition of Newspeak Dictionary, he gives Winston his address and asks him to come by later in the evening. Winston is convinced that the conspiracy he had imagined really exists. The time has come to take action, and he could feel himself moving closer to his grave. Now, chapter number 7. Winston recalls his childhood. He remembers when his father was taken away and his mother, without showing any emotion, continued to perform the daily chores. He was greedy child. The little food that they had, which was to be divided between his mother, him, and his little sister, who was a few months old. He demanded all of it for himself. One day they received their ration of chocolate, and he snatches the whole piece and runs away from his home, while his mother shouts after him and holds his sister close to her. When he returns home, they are gone. Winston believes that the party has successfully persuaded the masses in believing that their feelings did not matter. They have become emotionless and work like machines to fulfill the objectives of the party. Only the proles remain human by keeping their primitive instincts alive. If you love someone, you love them. And if you have nothing else to give them, you still give them love. The party can control your actions and the truth, but they cannot control your feelings and emotions. Winston understands that more than staying alive, it is important to stay human and to feel that staying human is worthwhile, and that will be the party's biggest defeat. Chapter number 8. Winston and Julia reach O'Brien's house where he reveals to them that he works for Emmanuel Goldstein, and after asking them a few questions, includes them in the Brotherhood. He informs them that the work they do is slow in getting results and that they shouldn't be too hopeful that anything significant will happen in their lifetime. He explained to them that more than being an organization, Brotherhood is an idea, and their objective is to spread their knowledge individual to individual, generation after generation. He informs Winston that he will provide him a copy of the book written by Emmanuel Goldstein that contains the true nature of the society and how to destroy it. So now we were going to start the chapter number 9, that is during Hate Week, when the propaganda is run against the enemies in entire Oceania. The enemies change from Eurasia to Astasia. No one notices the change, or if they did, they conveniently ignore it. Winston receives the book called The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism by Emmanuel Goldstein. Winston and Julia reach their usual hiding spot and start reading the book. It talks about how the party maintains power and how the atmosphere of endless war is maintained when there is no actual war taking place. The book also explains the true meaning of the party's slogan. Julia falls asleep before they could finish the book. Winston is still not satisfied because he hasn't got the answer to why the party was doing this. Chapter 10. Winston and Julia wake up, and after a few minutes, they are captured by the Thought Police. A telescreen was hidden behind a painting in the room, and it is revealed that Mr. Charrington is an agent of the Thought Police. Julia is taken away, never to be seen by Winston again. Now we were going to start the part 3, chapter 1. There are 6 parts and there are 6 chapters only in this part, and this is the last part. Winston is taken to a prison where he gets no food nor water. There are other prisoners too, and some of them are taken to room 101. Winston doesn't know exactly what it is, but he could clearly see the fear of the prisoners when they hear of the room 101. Winston is surprised to see Parsons enters the prison. He is accused of thought crime. He had repeatedly sat down with Big Brother in his sleep, and his daughter, who was listening through the keyhole, informed the Thought Police. Parsons is proud of his daughters and believes that he deserves this. Winston is shocked when O'Brien enters the prison, and it is revealed that O'Brien is also an agent of the Thought Police and has been keeping an eye on Winston and his activities for the past 7 years. It is also revealed later that the book Winston received was written by O'Brien and his team. Now, chapter number 2. Winston is tortured continuously for several months. He is made to confess crimes he did not commit and sign papers he did not know the content of. O'Brien uses a special torture device on Winston. He informs Winston that he is diseased and needs to be cured. He says that instead of killing him while he still has rebellion in his mind, he will let him live, but not before wiping his mind clean. So he won't have any feelings or thoughts of his own. He will live like an empty shell, but he will be truly loyal to the party and Big Brother. Now, we were already in chapter number 2. O'Brien then proceeds to use another device on Winston that clears a part of his brain. He still remembers who he is, but it feels like a part of his brain has been wiped clean. Then whatever O'Brien says, Winston accepts as truth. Chapter number 3. After weeks of torture, O'Brien tells Winston that it is time to understand the truth. He reminds Winston that he had written in his diary that he knew how the party was altering the lies. What he didn't know was why. O'Brien informs him that the party does it only to keep itself in a position of power and nothing else. They keep their citizens poor and torture their enemies to keep a hold on them and stay powerful, and that they will remain powerful for the rest of eternity. Winston argues that they cannot keep it up forever. Sooner or later, people will recognize the deception and rise against the party. He says that he is morally above O'Brien and the party. O'Brien instructs Winston to remove his clothes and stand in front of the mirror. Winston obeys and is horrified to see that his face is unrecognizable and his body is falling apart. He has lost so much weight that his body looks like a bag of bones. His spine is curved, his teeth are falling out, and almost all the hair from his head are gone. His skin has become grey and there is dirt in his scars. He starts crying in pity for himself, and O'Brien says that Winston himself is responsible for this condition. Winston asks when will they shoot him, and O'Brien informs him that first he will make Winston loyal to the party, and then they will execute him. Now, the chapter number 4. Winston is kept in a cell and is given meals at regular intervals, clean clothes, and warm water to clean himself. Slowly, the physical condition of his body starts improving. He accepts that he is defeated and tries to incorporate the way of thinking that the party expects him to. He tries but fails, so he decides to keep his true intentions deep inside him and never to think about it. And right before they are about to execute him, he will let all the hatred he has for the party and Big Brother consume him. This will defeat the party's purpose of keeping everyone loyal to them till they are dead. Freedom would be to die hating them. O'Brien senses this and asks Winston his true feelings. Winston reveals that he hates Big Brother. O'Brien says that It is not enough to just obey Big Brother, one must love him. Then he takes Winston to room 101, chapter number 5. The final stage of Winston reformation is accepting the truth. Openings informs him that room 101 contains each prisoner washed fair. He knows that Winston has a fear of rats, so he brings a cage that contains 2 rats and starts moving it closer to Winston's face. Winston betrays Julia by shouting in panic that whatever they wanted to do, they should do to Julia and not him. Chapter number 6. Winston is released and given a job, a sinecure, and he frequently visits the Chestnut Cafe, where he sits for the major part of the day and drinks copious amounts of gin. One day he meets Julia, who has also been tortured, and both confess to having betrayed the other, and they no longer have any feelings for each other. The telescreen announces the Oceania's army has won a major battle against the Eurasian army in Africa, and everyone in the Chestnut Cafe celebrates. Winston, now completely reformed, looks at the poster of Big Brother and full accepts that he loves Big Brother. So this is the only summary of the book 1984. So if you like this book, so please like, share and subscribe our channel, and for more these type of videos, please subscribe to our channel. If there are any problems, please comment us. Thank you.